tonight our garden club is having our monthly meeting out here at the VFW building, and our guest speaker is no other than Mississippi's own Felder Rushing, and I'm so excited to listen to him speak. He is the most prominent gardener in Mississippi. He knows everything, and his approach, big truck is going by, and his approach to gardening is right up my alley because it's sort of common sense, basic. If it works for you, let's make it easy, because if it's too hard, you're not going to want to do it. But anyway, I'm excited to hear what he has to say. So I'm going to show y'all some snippets of the night. Here she comes.
Miss America.
The lady of the hour, Miss America.
It's like y'all got a big crowd.
I know it.
It is a big crowd.
Yes, you look pretty, Mama.
Thank you.
Felder Rushing is an American gardener renowned for his unconventional approach to horticulture. Raised in Indianola, Mississippi, Rushing's passion for gardening was nurtured by his horticulturist great-grandmother and grandmother. Rushing's professional journey includes a 25-year tenure as an urban horticulture specialist with Mississippi State University Extension Service. During this period, he empowered local communities with sustainable gardening practices. Beyond his extension work, Rushing has held prominent positions such as National Director of the Garden Writers Association, member of the National Youth Gardening Committee, and board member of the American Horticultural Society. Dividing his time between his Mississippi cottage garden and a Victorian terrace house herb garden in Lancashire, England, Rushing brings a transatlantic perspective to his work. His contributions to the gardening world are vast, encompassing over 20 books, numerous newspaper columns, magazine articles, and his weekly NPR program on Mississippi Public Broadcasting, The Gestalt Gardener. Rushing's gardening philosophy, termed slow gardening, encourages individuals to savor the process of gardening, focusing on personal satisfaction rather than rigid rules or trends. This approach emphasizes mindfulness and a deep connection to one's environment. For those interested in exploring his publications, I'll leave links to his books in the description below this video. Y'all enjoy.
Professor from Mississippi State, I plucked down a forehead. At the same time, I'm aware that Aunt Mamie, some of you may be my Aunt Mamie. Aunt Mamie knows that you don't have to do things like the book says. You know, the book says you got to water your grass once a week. I'm thinking, if I say that, I'm correct, but ain't nobody gonna believe. You got to turn the radio off. See, so I have to sort of balance the strictures of horticulture with the practicalities of how I was raised. I was raised by older women. I couldn't catch balls when I was a kid. I couldn't do sports. I don't have hand-eye coordination. So I get to hang out. I was in the band and the Boy Scouts and hung out with the ladies in the garden. And as it turns out, the guys who can play sports really well, they ain't got any knees left. And I'm still hanging in here. So anyway, I'm going to throw a few ideas around. I'm not going to get too much into how-to tonight because y'all know that. Either you know it or you don't want to know it, or you know where you can find out. So I'm not going to get so much into all of that. But I would like to mention there are three things in my career that are important to me. And all three of them are what it takes to have a garden, a real garden. It takes three things to have a garden. First is plants. I wrote a book with Steve Bender. Y'all remember the Grumpy Gardener from Southern Living? Yeah. We did a book 30-something years ago called Pass Along Plants. The kind of plants that everybody grows but nobody buys. You know, you get it from somebody, got it from somebody. But you can't have a garden without plants. At the same time, plants don't care who you are. Plants will grow by themselves. They grow in the road. They grow in the ditches. They grow in the swamps. Plants will figure something out. See, so what we do is we choose the plants that we like or that we can use that have benefit to us, the plants that are valuable to us, and we pull those together in a collection we call our garden. We pull them together. We choose the plants we want to choose. Sometimes they're chosen by society because, you know, sometimes all you can buy is azaleas. Even if you want to plant something cooler, if they ain't got it, you got to go with what's there. But anyway, you take all these different plants and different values and uses and seasons and all that, and you put them together in an area as a collection. And that's the first thing, plants. The second thing starts with a P also. It's called process. Process is when you do things a certain way to get certain results. Just like there's different plants, there's different processes. Some of you want a neatly mowed lawn. Some of you want wildflowers. Some of you don't want anything like that. Some just tired of it. It's just like cutting hair. I look like the guy on a $100 bill. He's got long hair and bifocals too. But it's not the standard around here. So I have to choose to be myself and rise above things. So what your process is, how you do things, the way you do them, the reason you do them, they're highly personal. And no two of us really do it alike. So you got all these different plants, all these different types of processes, and you have all these possibilities. And the third thing that makes it a garden, because you can have plants and process outside the church or the courthouse. You don't have to do much. You just get into a routine. But to make it a really a good garden, you have to have that third piece called personality. Your garden, your touch. What makes yours different from people up and down the street. And we're going to talk about that a good bit tonight. Anyway, my first two books, Pass Along Plants, about plants. The next one was about slow gardening. That's the way people have always done it. The whole book has got 2 paragraphs on soil preparation because that's all you need to know. Anybody ever crumble crackers up in your chili? Mm-hmm. Anybody? If you don't put at least 2 hands full, you can't tell you added any. No. If you don't put at least a handful, you can't tell you added any. If you put more than 2 hands full, it ain't chili anymore. Okay? So if you understand 1 or 2 hands full of crackers to a bowl of chili, you got down all you need to know about soil preparation. You add stuff to your chili. You don't dump the chili out, fill the bowl up with crackers. See, so anyway, take what you got to do. Anyway, I'm not going to get too much into all the detail of that. I would like to throw a couple of things out, though. When it comes to personality, sometimes it's a little bit different. How many of y'all remember his name was Jewel
Thomas?
Right? Jewel Thomas. He had all these fence posts just outside of Carrollton. He had all these fence posts with crazy constructions on them. If y'all remember that? Uh-huh. He wasn't like other folks. Uh-huh. But he did it his own way. He did it the way he wanted to. He accessorized the way he wanted to do. There used to be a fellow who lived down the hill from Black Hawk who pruned his shrubs into life-size horse and cowboys and stuff. Yeah. Anybody can prune their, and by the way, when he died, it's all gone. It's all gone. Because personality is highly personal. And we can share plants and process, but personality is very ephemeral. So anyway, when it comes to sharing things, we share plants, we share techniques, but sometimes we are a little bit afraid to express our personality. I'm going to touch on that. What I'm talking about is this sort of thing right here. How many of you feel this way? Because I do. People drive up and down my street in Jackson and they say, "Are you out of your mind? Don't you care what the neighbors think?" And I'm thinking, first of all, I do care what my neighbors think. It just doesn't matter. Second of all, my yard been a southern living and yours ain't. But when people look at my garden from the street, they see it backwards. My garden is laid from the house out towards the street, like your backyard is from the house looking out. So when people drive by, they're looking at the back of my fence. And I plant, it's pure yazoo clay. I don't water, don't spray. And a lot of my favorite wildflowers are weeds in other people's yards. So it looks rough to a lot of people. And they don't understand that I know it doesn't look great, but I'm not trying to please strangers zipping up and down the street. I'm trying to please myself because life is short. Life is short. So sometimes I just feel, matter of fact, I'm going to read a quote. It's too good a quote. Too good a quote. It's from my Maverick Garden book. It'll take me just 1 second. The first quote in this whole book. Hang on a second. It's not very professional, but I feel pretty good about this quote. I feel pretty good about it. This is a quote called Different Peas, Same Pod. Listen to this. The world to me is a secret which I desire to divine. Curiosity, earnest research to learn the hidden laws of nature, and a gladness akin to rapture are among the earliest sensations I remember. There's a love of the marvelous, a belief in the marvelous, which hurries me out of the common pathway of other men. You know who said that? A guy named Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Yeah, he's a little different. This is great. Does it work? This is great. If I only had played sports, maybe I could reach both ways. Anyway, I came up with this book called Maverick Gardeners. It's about the people who do what they want to do, how they do it, why they do it. If you don't like it, you can go home. And they're decent people. They're not crazy. They're not crazy at all. They just march to a different drummer. That's all it is to it. And we all celebrate that. When it comes to gardening, sometimes we make fun of them. We don't understand what they're doing, and it doesn't fit in. It makes us a little bit nervous, and sometimes we get a little bit judgmental about it. But in the garden is the only place on earth where you can have fun. If you can't have fun in your own garden, where can you? So anyway, when I get home, doesn't matter where I go. I travel literally worldwide. I live overseas and blah, blah, blah. But when I get home tonight, to get in my yard, I rent my house out to some female medical students because they're not going to mess up my floors like guys would. And I live in a cabin in the backyard. It's a cool little cabin. Rick Griffin Design has been in HGTV. It was just a nice little cabin. But to get to my backyard, I've got to go through a gate in my side, and I have this big hairy rope hanging down. Big hairy rope. You cannot get into my back garden without touching that rope. Why would I do that? Any idea? If you're going to visit my garden, you can't just blow in and blow out. You've got to touch something. You've got to get grounded. You've got to be in the here and now. You have to have an experience. You are going from out there to in here. It's like a gate you have to open. When I get home tonight, I'm going to fist bump that rope and I'm going to say, I'm home. I made it. Things are okay. I'm in my special place, which is where the word garden comes from. It's a guarded place. Garden means a guarded place. So anyway, when I get home, I'm going to do that. I do live in England part of the year. Some of y'all may know that. In my little village, they have all sorts of pretty flowers. You know, people say, oh, it's so nice in England. You know, they can't grow okra in England. They can't grow sweet potatoes. They can't grow tomatoes outside because it's not hot enough. They don't turn red. See, it's a whole different ball game. But I see all these kind of plants, and I admire them, but I don't want to bring them home with me because they don't. A lot of them just don't grow here. Everywhere I go, people garden like they grow different plants. When I'm walking in across the moors, they have wild lupins. We got wild lupins like this. How many of you ever tried to grow a fuchsia in north central Mississippi? Fuchsia? How'd that work out? Not too good, because fuchsias don't like it here. They just burn up. And so people try and try. Any of you members of the Mississippi Gardening Facebook? Okay, there's a bunch of weirdos on there. You know what I'm saying? There's earnest people. People always want to try to do things that it's a good idea, but it just doesn't make sense. I've been to Japan and Africa and South America and all over Europe, and everywhere I go, in California, everywhere I go, people want to grow things that they see on vacation. They come back here, and people from England come over here, and they just cannot believe wild magnolia trees and goldenrod, which is one of the top 10 perennials in English gardens. Goldenrod. We don't like it because it's everywhere, but they don't see it as a wildflower or a native plant. They see it as a late summer, fall blooming cut flower that is the top pollinator plant in their gardens. Good cut flower, good thing. And I said, well, it kind of it gets away from you, doesn't it? And they give you that blank look, like people who've been gardening for 300 years. They say, well, you just pull it up, don't you?
Exactly.
It's like plucking eyebrows. You just pull them up, start whining about it. Plant it where it can't. Anyway, one of the things I noticed, I'm a member of the Royal Horticultural Society, and one of our any of y'all watch Monty Don on TV? I'm just dropping names here. Monty and I go way back. He doesn't know squat about gardening in Mississippi, I can tell you that. But anyway, we opened our latest botanical garden, Royal Horticultural Society Botanic Garden, 4 years ago. So they've got England will fit inside Mississippi, and they've got 5 botanic gardens that are world class. Imagine having a botanic garden in Clarksdale, and in Tupelo, and in Hattiesburg, and in Jackson. World class things. Anyway, they opened up this new garden, and they're beautiful flowing flower borders. They're just incredible flowers, loaded with butterflies and pollinators. And I took this picture of it, and it turns out 80% of the plants in this picture, in this garden, are native to Mississippi. They grow our plants because they think they're cool. And fuchsias and foxglove grow along the roadside as weeds. See, so everywhere you go, something different. By the way, I saw this in a nice garden. This is a split rail fence, just like you find all over Mississippi. We've got black-eyed Susan, got goldenrod, got Joe Pye weed, got all these plants in this picture are native to Mississippi, but this is in southern England. you can have a nice looking normal garden using our wildflowers. If you stop thinking of them as wildflowers and weeds, and just think of them as good garden plants, like you would a magnolia or a dogwood. See, so that's the whole idea. I do have a nice little garden in the back where I grow herbs. And by the way, we say herbs in England because it's got an H. The French say herb, okay? Yeah. So anyway, they also say, in England, they say dirt. You know why? Because dirt is English for soil, which is French for dirt. Any master gardeners here? You know, y'all were taught to be a little snooty about words that don't really matter. As long, you know, you plant in the dirt, you throw dirt to your corn, you soil your pants. Okay? So this is not how you want to do it. I will say this. It took me 5 years in my little village. I've been over there for 17 years. It took me 5 years to work my way up to being allowed to be an assistant hanging basket judge. Okay? Because I'm an American, I couldn't possibly know anything about gardening. My great-grandmother was a horticulturist, Indianola. She lived right with the Sunflower, where Sunflower Avenue crosses the bayou. She was a member of the garden club in the 1930s. When I was 10 years old, she called me little professor because I was always bugging her about stuff. And she showed me a lot of cool stuff. She did so much stuff. But I've got all these wonderful flower frogs, and I use them. And about 5 years ago, we were knocking around the old barn back in the back, and I came across a stack of stuff with dirt dauber nests, and I found, among other things, a whole bunch of McCoy pottery. Just stacked up behind the barns because nobody cared. I'm thinking, these things are probably worth $20 a piece on eBay. But anyway, I use them. One thing my great-grandmother taught me, though, I thought was really cool, because she was a horticulture chair of her garden club. She was never a secretary, or she was too grouchy to be an officer. But she was a horticulture chair. She told me one time, she was in a particularly grouchy mood. And remember, she was a horticulturist. She hybridized over 200 different kinds of chrysanthemums. She grew over 350 different kinds of daffodils. This is over in Indianola. Well, she said she was in a really bad mood. She said, if you want to get a blue ribbon or yard of the month or any kind of accolades, any kind of award, if you want to get honors from the community, it's not what you know, it's not what you do, it's how you figure out what the judge is looking for. Yeah, jumping through hoops. And she never jumped through hoops. But instead, what she would do is she would get some plain old roses, probably a black spot. She'd get some spiderwort, but you can't kill Roundup, just burns spiderwort down. It comes right back. But she would take these common plants and she would put them together in what she called a bouquet. And she called it Rumpelstiltskin's bouquet. Remember Rumpelstiltskin? Wove golden garments out of what? That's nice. I want that. Rumpelstiltskin wove golden garments out of common straw. And isn't that what we're trying to do? Golden garments out of common straw. And what she had was, among many things, that she had early blooming things like these paper whites. How many of you think paper whites smell like cat pee? Seriously, listen, it's okay. Some people do. The paper whites start blooming as early as Christmas, and always in January. It's the right style for my garden. I've seen fancier stuff, but when I look at it, I don't see a concrete chicken. I see my grandmother and her zinnias. And a lot of people don't understand that. You don't understand what's in a gardener's heart. By the way, P. Allen Smith, y'all know P. Allen Smith? Anybody? Y'all know him?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's sort of like the southern male version of Martha Stewart, except not quite, because he's from Arkansas. He started an heirloom poultry group. They're rescuing all these antique poultry breeds. And I got him to put hands on Granny's chicken. He declared her a fine bird. So she has been blessed. By the way, I was raised right in Indianola in this house right here. This is the house I was raised in. My dad built it when I was 6 years old in the second grade. We lived there till I graduated till I flunked out of Moorhead. It's right across the street from the horticulturist garden. It got an azalea, it's got a trash can, and you can't see it, but by the front door, it's got a metal sunflower. And that was it. That's what I was raised with. I had to mow the grass. I couldn't go swim until I mowed the grass. And the reason I said when I get to be grown, I'm not gonna have any grass, and I don't. I don't even cut my hair. I do shave though, I know what to do. Anyway, when I moved to my house in Jackson, this is what it looked like when I first moved in. A house, street at the bottom, big old magnolia tree, a bunch of gumdrops and meatballs around the foundation, and a bunch of grass to be mowed. I said, nope, not for me. I'm old, I'm tired, I'm busy, I'm lazy. When I bend over, I see sparkly things. And so I decided I'm not gonna have this. What I did was I turned it into this. Oh, it looks good on paper. Who's ever seen my yard? If any of y'all see my yard, it looks okay on paper. But I've got so much stuff. I've got curves, and there's nothing that has to be mowed. I try to choose plants that do well without a bunch of care. From the street, it looks like this. It kind of shocking to some people. The mayor of Madison said one time, Felder, you need to move to Madison. And everybody said, ooh, that's nice. And I said, you don't let people like me live in Madison. You know, I'm really better suited out from Carrollton. Okay? A good ways out there. But if you go up to my house and turn around and look back out, this is what you see. It's a whole different ball game. And it's comforting. And it even looks good in the wintertime because I've got structures. Let me see if I can get it. Oh yeah, I built a fire in my front yard because I think fire is great. You know, I was raised watching television, flickering images on the television, and we're used to that. We get stuck looking at the flickering flames without realizing for thousands of years we've been mesmerized by flickering flames. It's comforting. It's somehow secure. Watching the flickering flames makes us feel secure. Which I suspect, by the way, that's one of the reasons. You know how guys got to mess with the fire? You know, guys? It could be why we can't leave the remote control alone. But in the summertime, this is what my garden looks like now. You know, I've got lots of cool plants that I rescued from old gardens, and I'm putting them around in different areas. I even have a little area in the back that looks kind of like a little English garden because I shoved some chimney pots out there. You put chimney pots out there, and people think it's all English. You know, you can make it look Japanese by putting a little lantern out there. You know, whatever you want to put a rock out there. I also like to grow things that are pretty to look at. When you're tired of looking at it, you can eat it. This is a tiny little slice of one of my gardens that I grow lettuces in the wintertime. Everybody's moaning and groaning about it. Can't Johnny jump up? Even a little bottle tree. Because, you know, you've got to accessorize. I mean, it's just okay without the bottles. You put the bottles in there, all of a sudden it is what we call Felderized. I'm just having some fun. Anyway, you can do that. There's so many different ways you can have colorful things. Garlic, y'all grow garlic? Well, see, I don't have room in my garden, so what I do is I grow it in a pot. Here's the garlic that I grow in one pot. I plant it back in the fall. It blooms in the spring. It dies down. I got all the garlic, enough to keep all the vampires away. It's a great thing. I even grow potatoes in bags. So I don't have a big garden, so I print them with a bottle bag, and they grow up just fill up with leaves, and that's what I end up with. I also use, I'm a real big fan of Tractor Supply and Co-op. I grow stuff in great big galvanized containers because I don't have to bend over to eat them. And then I want to show you this one. This is fun. Could you imagine having this in your yard and you walk out there and you look at your neighbors and you slam the window in their face? You know, my mother's been dead all these years, but I swear she's standing behind me and she can smack me on the back of the head and I'll straighten up. Anyway, one of the things I want to touch on was about growing things in containers. I'm going to go through it real quick because y'all know about growing stuff. This is a dwarf century plant. You know, the big century plants, they'll freeze sometimes this far north. That dwarf, and that's as big as it gets, and it grows outside in the parking lot of the Memphis Botanic Garden. See, I like colors and textures. Anyway, and this is what it looked like 3 weeks ago. See, you can have a garden without having to be a horticulturist by just shoving stuff together and gradually replacing what dies with something else until you end up with stuff that looks good, which is what I like doing. This is what it looks like up close. It's just a pot. It's just a pot. If you could do this, you can do that. If you can do that, you can do an area the size of your kitchen table. You can do that, you can do a board until you get tired or just can't stand it. It's just a matter of scale. Now, I will throw out a couple of others. When you look at my driveway, you see this, and it looks kind of interesting. What's that tall, looks like a pot made out of corrugated tin? If you go around behind it, look back towards the street, I put my trash cans on it. I just raised it up, and I used for the containers that one of those plastic buckets that you get at Home Depot to mix up concrete in. And this is what it looks like. It's sucking us, don't need water. See, anybody can garden, and everybody, the people at the space station, they see your trash can. They can't see mine. And I took it one step further down the street from me. I literally planted a pothole. Yeah, it's got a pothole too. Some people don't get it. I'm all right with that. Anyway, there's a lot of different kind of things. I will throw out 3 little things that make container gardening easy. You have to have something to keep the fire ants out, and I just put some kitchen stuff over the hole. Keeps the potting soil and keeps the ants out. Any questions? No? That's just that little kitchen thing you scrub your pots and pans with, and it always wears out. I could get in all that. I mulch all my containers. I think mulch is important. It keeps it from having to water so much. Anybody's ever grown a strawberry pot, you know, you water a strawberry pot and all the water comes out the top. Now put your pipe halfway down in it. Do something like this. Just down the first level. And then the last thing I'll mention is pot feet. You can make pot feet with crushed up beer cans or little rocks. But by putting a pot up, water drips away. It doesn't leave a stain on your deck. It doesn't rot your deck. It doesn't leave a little green spot. Just a little pot to get up off the ground. And you don't have ants in it either. Just a little stupid trick, a little horticulture stuff. Now, I'm going to get through this real quick. I like to mix stuff up. Now, some of you may remember, y'all know Ralph Null teaches floral design. He was my professor back in 1977. He taught me floral design. And he taught me line, mass, and filler. Y'all know that, right? But when I say line, mass, and filler, y'all know, but other people don't. You got to explain those. So I say spiky, roundy, frilly. Line, mass, filler. And I hope this is not nasty in American Sign Language. But anyway, as long as you have something spiky, something roundy, frilly, then nobody can really tell if you mess up. That's all it takes is shoving it. And also, if you're in a container, you need something that's floppy over the edge. And I do that with lettuces. This is one of my numerous winter containers. When I'm tired of looking at it, I can eat it. Then I can plant something later. Now, I want to whip through and just show you some examples of stuff I've seen and used as containers. Anything that's recycled, if it's got a hole in it, I will plant in it. I like 5-gallon buckets because you can paint them. See, I worked with kids for a long time. They appreciate paint. Nobody wants to see a Lowe's or Home Depot bucket. They want to see hearts and stuff. Anyway, I did that. It's real easy, but I did a little bit bigger. You know, if you can do 1, you can do 5. If you can do 5, you can do 10. And this garden right here is what it looked like in the spring. Here's what it looked like in the fall. Same garden. All 5-gallon buckets.
Oh my gosh.
Gardening's not hard. Gardening's not hard. And then I like to recycle. And you throw something away, I'm gonna plant something in it. Granny's wash pot had a hole in the bottom. She threw it up under the house. I think, Granny, that's drainage. Bathtub. Anybody got a bathtub in your garden? You know, we're okay. We're okay. And go to the Memphis Botanic Garden, the children's garden, they have a whole bathroom planted. And some people think it's tacky. I'm thinking, sorry, these are kids. You need to get kids on, I gave a talk in San Antonio, Texas, not long ago.